All right, I've got a simple equipment hack that you can use if you struggle with those longer irons. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So I think everybody in their iron setup is going to have that club or those clubs that just start to feel uncomfortable, where you just don't feel like you get enough distance out of them. They don't gap properly off the club before it. Maybe the consistency is lacking as well. You're just not quite as accurate with it. Everyone's going to have those clubs like that in their setup. Different golfers, it could be different points. For some golfers, your 7-iron might be great, but then your 6 and your 5 are not so good. Some golfers, it may be your 5 and your 4 are good, but if you carry a 3-iron, maybe that's not so good. Different golfers, different point at which you reach that question mark, but I think, again, it happens to all golfers. So this hack is really going to be for anyone, which is probably most all of us, that has that point in their iron setup where you're just not quite getting what you want out of it. Okay, step one, we got to figure out what club or clubs are the problem clubs. And at this point, we just got to be completely honest. You got to check your ego at the door and realize this isn't going to work unless you're honest about it. So if a 6-iron isn't going any further than the 7-iron, well, then that's where we got to start this. If your 5-iron isn't going any further than your 6, that's where we started. For me in this demonstration, I'm just going to say my 5-iron is probably the problem club. And quite honestly, in real life, the 5-iron is probably my problem club too. I feel like the 6-iron, which I've just been hitting a few with, I'm pretty consistent on the numbers, on the contact. It goes the right distance, it goes the right height, it does all the things I want it to do. The 5-iron, there is a bit of a drop off in the consistency, in the distance, all of those things. So we're going to start with the last club that you feel like you hit consistently and well. So for me, that's the 6-iron. Now, here's where we're going to go and make the hack. What we're doing now, we're changing the lengths. We are changing the length progression. Standard length progression in a set of irons is usually about a 1/2-inch interval from iron to iron. So your 7-iron could be 37 inches. That would mean your 6-iron, 37.5 inches, and up or down from there. Obviously, single length is a different story that we're not going to get into here. And obviously, your wedges will get a little bit more compacted as far as that length progression goes, because you got to fit in extra clubs there in a limited amount of space. But on the longer end, it's a 1/2 inch. So what we're going to do, starting with the last club you feel like you hit solidly, for me the 6-iron, we're going to take this club, and instead of having that 1/2 inch progression from the 7-iron to the 6, we're going to cut that in half and go down to a 1/4 inch progression. So now, instead of my 6-iron being 37.5 inches, we're going to play it at 37.25. Now what that means is we're now going to move into the first club that you feel like is really the problem club. For me, the 5-iron, and instead of it being 38 inches, we are again going to just move in a 1/4 inch progression off of the previous club. This club is now at 37.25. That means my 5-iron is now going to be 37.5. So that means it is now playing a full 1/2 inch short versus its standard configuration. If you have additional clubs beyond that, if I was carrying a 4-iron, we're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to go from 37.5 in that 5 to 37.75 in the 4-iron, aka a full 3/4 of an inch under standard. So what we're doing here is just trying to give you a little bit shorter golf club. And in this case, this is kind of like the one length idea in the long irons, which is you make all the long irons a little bit shorter, they should be easier to hit. Now, no, you're not going to increase any speed from this as far as club head speed goes, but you will very likely become more able to hit the ball with the center of the face, and that's going to give you better ball speed. It's the same thing if you were trying to color a picture. If you're up close, it's a lot easier to color than if you've got your arm extended trying to do it out here. If we make the golf club a little shorter, it's going to be a little easier to hit the center of the face, and that's going to give us more consistent ball speed, more consistent higher ball speed, and hopefully better, more consistent distance. All right, now I know what you're thinking. Well, wait a second. I don't know if I want to just go and cut all these clubs down, just taking a chance to see if this idea works. Well, guess what? You don't have to, because we can basically recreate the exact same feel, at least temporarily, or if you want, you can do it permanently by just choking up a little bit on the shaft. So all we really need to do is figure out how much of that length we're going to be changing. And in this case, again, the 5-iron is now going to be a 1/2 inch shorter. And I can just choke up that 1/2 inch and hit some balls and see what happens to my contact, what happens to my distance, to my speed, playing this 5-iron a little bit shorter. So first, let's hit a few balls just at full 5-iron length, that being 38 inches. And then we'll try choking up a little bit on it and seeing what we get in a slightly shorter configuration. Complaints with that, that's as good as I can hit a 5-iron right there, so. It was a little bit toey. We'll see. Still got out there pretty good. All right, those stock 5-irons I actually hit really well today, so good on me. Sometimes I can hit this club really well. But let's see what happens now if we just choke down that 1/2 inch. Again, choking down versus cutting down, not going to be a big difference as far as what you're going to feel, what you're going to notice, and definitely the best way to quickly, easily, and no-cost way of figuring out, does this idea make sense? Does it seem like it might work for you? Everything's going to be about the same. The swing weight type of feel is going to be about the same. The shaft's going to feel the same as far as how it bends. Probably the biggest difference is just that the grip is going to be slightly smaller since we're choking further down the grip. It's going to get a little bit smaller because of the taper. But other than that, everything else will be pretty close, whether you choke down or cut it down. All right, so here are the numbers. First thing I will point out, because people are going to say, well, when you shorten a golf club, aren't you going to swing it slower than if it was longer? And I just want you to look at my club head speeds. As you see, they're essentially the same whether I was choking down or playing it at full length. In fact, if anything, the choked down version was slightly faster. Now, I am not in any way ever going to claim that making a golf club shorter is going to make you swing it faster. I don't think that will usually happen, but it's definitely not making you slower. So no real loss there. Look at my efficiency, look at my ball speed, and you see basically the numbers are in a dead heat with the standard length. And again, I made this really hard on myself because I hit all the standard ones exceptionally well for me, so it was a pretty high bar to start with. But you can see the efficiency was just as good, choked down, the distance was the same. The only real difference you will notice is that the shots with the shorter version club were slightly further right. And that can be probably for two main reasons. One, it could be that the head now feels a little bit lighter because you're choking down on it. So you may need to add just a little bit of lead tape, a little extra weight in order to bring that back. Or the other thing, or it could be a combination, is that anytime you make a golf club shorter, you will be sort of making the lie angle a little bit more toe down. So as a club gets shorter, the toe kind of starts to go like that, which means the start line pushes further and further to the right for a right-handed golfer. and not surprising that I might see the shots start and end a little further right of target. So if you do this, you may want to then adjust those lie angles just a little bit in order to get that start line, get that finish line where you want it. All right, again, step one, figure out what club in your bag is the last club you feel like you hit solidly. Step two, we're going to take that club, we're going to shorten it by 1/4 inch, and every club that comes after it, we're going to just move in 1/4 inch intervals instead of half. So my 6-iron drops to 37 1/4, and my 5-iron drops to 37 1/2. Step three, we're going to go out and test it. And again, you don't have to cut all your clubs down and re-grip them to test this. All you need to do is just choke down on it a little bit and just basically measure and mark where you need to grip it, and you can figure out how does that club that previously, for me, the 5-iron was the problem club, how does it perform in that new length? Now again, you might need to make a couple changes, either add a little bit of weight, possibly, not necessarily, but just be aware, and possibly need to adjust the lie angle as well if you find that things are going a little bit too far to the right side because you've made everything a little bit shorter. And at that point, look, worst case scenario, you don't notice a difference and you just stop doing it and hold it like you always did. Best case scenario, you can decide either I'm going to keep choking down that way or take the grips off, cut them down a little bit, put grips back on, and now you've got sort of a progressive length iron set that will hopefully give you more consistency, better contact in those troubling long irons. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you go down below, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you'll be alerted when I post new videos. Interested in a fitting, club build, repair, my contact information is down in the description, and I will see you next time.